Hey, Mike Wilson here. I love a good story. I love to read a good story. I love to hear a good story. I love to watch a movie that has a good story. I grew up that way probably from watching Sherlock Holmes movies, the old black and white ones with Basil Rathbone playing Sherlock. And of course, I read Sherlock Holmes books. I just like anything that has a great story. Now, I've promised to tell you stories over this quarantine period. I'm going to give you one today that has very little to do with me, but more of a story that comes out of the Bible. It does involve me a little bit. I learned a section of scripture, Psalm the third chapter, from an album. I was having a real difficult time going to sleep at night. I had tormenting thoughts, stressed thoughts, anxiety. I had a lot of those problems and had a difficult time going to sleep every night. And somebody had given me an album. It was an album of a guy holding the Bible. And it didn't look very appealing to me. I listened to a lot of music back then. But one night I thought, well, I probably need to listen to this guy. I thought it was a preaching album. And what it was a guy who was singing songs that were based on scripture. It was pretty good. And I learned one, Psalm the third chapter. It goes, Lord, are they increased that trouble me? Many are they that rise up against me. Many there be which say of my soul, there is no help for him in God. But thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, my glory and the lifter of my head. I cried unto the Lord with my voice, and he heard me out of his holy hill. I lay down and I slept. I awoke, for the Lord sustained me. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people who have set themselves against me round about. And then the song repeats. That's the song. There's a little more to the scripture there. Now, that's a really cool song to me, but you got to know the story behind the song. The story behind it is the story of David. It's like David. You know David that killed a bear, a lion, a giant. That David. He faced his most difficult moment when his son rose up to overthrow him and take over the kingdom. That's a pretty bad family dynamic going on there, isn't it? I mean, you think you have family problems. Like, especially some of you being locked in together. You really think you have some family problems. David has it going on here. His son decides to take over. And he raises up the army. He gets the army on his side. He gets some of the military leaders on his side. He gets a large part of the population on his side. You can read it in the Bible. I can't tell you the whole story, but it's a fascinating story. And they rise up and they come up against David. And David and his men flee the city. I mean, it was so bad, David's most trusted advisors turned against him. And it was a difficult time. So David writes in the middle of this, Lord, are they increased that trouble me? Many are they that rise up against me. Many there be which say of my soul, there is no help for him in God. You know why they said that? Because he had messed up. He had messed up on many occasions. We know the story of Bathsheba and of her husband Uriah the Hittite, of him setting him up to be killed. He messed up in a lot of ways. He wasn't the greatest administrator. He wasn't the greatest king. Yeah, he was a guy who had a heart after God, but he made a lot of mistakes. And people got tired of it, got tired of the way that he was running the show. And many are they that rise up against me. Many there be which say of my soul, there is no help for him in God. And sometimes we hear people say negative things about us, and you know what? We may get offended, but we may agree with them. Yeah, I'm a mess. The next word, but. So but deals with everything that was previously said. It negates it. It counters it. But you, O Lord, art a shield for me. You're my glory and the lifter of my head. Why do we need our head lifted sometimes? Because we're embarrassed. We have shame. We've made mistakes and we know it. But we have forgiveness funneled into our life. Man, we have forgiveness funneled into our life. But you, O Lord, you're a shield for me, my protector. You're my glory and the lifter of my head. He has this massive army pursuing him. He flees the city. He runs. And he is on the verge of being defeated. But he gathers himself. Of course, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. But David gathers himself. You, O Lord, you're a shield for me. You're my glory and the lifter of my head. I cried unto the Lord with my voice. Have you been doing that? Don't just take the shame. Don't just take the beating. Don't just agree with the negative statements. I cried unto the Lord with my voice, and he heard me out of his holy hill. He heard me. I'm telling you, if you're talking to God, he's going to listen. He heard me. Man, we are in a crazy world. I mean, this is like a science fiction world that we're living in. I mean, there's bats biting and infecting people somewhere over in Wuhan, Transylvania. There are mad scientists who are brewing up potions to infect us all. I mean, it's like science fiction. Of course, we have Big Brother, not my Big Brother, but Big Brother from the Orwellian pursuit, where our smartphones and our smart TVs and our GPSs are tracking us and watching us every moment of the day. I mean, science fiction world, it's crazy. But we have God. We have God who overrides all those things. I cried unto the Lord with my voice. Man, you can stress. You can stress. You can wear out. You can be exhausted. You can be in the midst of fear. I know, it's wisdom. But you know if it's branched over into fear, don't you? You can't sleep. You twist, you turn, you worry, anxiety, stress. I cried unto the Lord with my voice, and he heard me out of his holy hill. Now, you know God's listening to you when there's a transaction that takes place. You cry unto him, and the next thing David says, I lay down and I slept. Man had been exhausted, worrying, stressing, wondering when the death blow was coming. He said, I laid down and I slept. The next phrase, I awoke, for the Lord sustained me. He kept me alive. Nobody jumped me in the middle of the night. The boogeyman didn't get me. The virus didn't get me. Count Dracula didn't get me. Moriarty didn't get me. You Sherlock Holmes fans know what I'm talking about. I awoke, for the Lord sustained me. In the song, the music swelled, and I think even in the writing, that's what takes place. He says, I will not be afraid. This transaction takes place. I have a conversation with God. I bare my heart to him. I even tell him what I'm concerned about, what my fears are. And the transaction takes place where he empowers me. He gives me confidence and faith and restores my hope. I woke, for the Lord sustained me. I will not be afraid. If 10,000 people set themselves against me round about, I don't care if I'm encircled by 10,000 people, by enemies, by my opponents, by my fears, by my thoughts, by viruses, I will not be afraid if they have set themselves against me. Why? Because he is understanding that God and him together equal a majority. That's a good thought. He says, arise, O Lord, deliver me, my God, strike my enemy on the jaw, break the teeth of the wicked. Deliverance comes from the Lord. Your blessing is on your people. Do you say this today? Lord, are they increased that trouble me? Many are they that rise up against me. Many there be which say of my soul, there is no help for him in God. Well, listen to the rest of it. But you, O Lord, you're a shield for me. You're my glory and the lifter of my head. I cried unto the Lord with my voice, and he heard me out of his holy hill. I lay down and I slept. I awoke, for the Lord sustained me. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people have set themselves against me round about. Arise, O Lord, deliver me, my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw. Break the teeth of the wicked. Deliverance comes from you, Lord, and your blessing is on your people. And I'm one of those. Have a great weekend.